Hey folks, good morning and welcome to the Upper Steelers Morning Rush. I'm Alan Saunders. Good Monday morning. It is a beautiful Monday here in Palm Beach, Florida at the NFL owners meetings. Tough travel schedule for me this week. I know I'm not expecting any sympathy from any of you in the comments, but we had to get up early to talk to Mike Tomlin this morning at 7:45. So we already have had another half an hour of Mike Tomlin since the last time I talked to you on that special Sunday episode we dropped yesterday. So if you missed that, go check that out. There's also like about 5 to 10 minutes of audio from Mike talking about the quarterback situation. I'm going to try in 10 minutes or so here to summarize the things that Mike Tomlin has said in the hour that was spoken to him so far. Of course, Smitty and I will go into greater depth. Steelers afternoon drive dropping about 6 tonight, so make sure you stay tuned for that. Let's start with quarterback. Mike Tomlin again reiterated that he has been in contact with Aaron Rodgers even since he's left the team's facility, that the Steelers have made no deadline. They haven't pressured Rodgers into a time frame for making a decision. They don't believe they're being harmed at all in any way by waiting for Rodgers. They don't think it's hurt their free agency process at all. They don't believe it will hurt their draft process at all. And in fact, Tomlin went as far to say yesterday that he doesn't think the Steelers would be harmed by not having a quarterback signed at any point before the start of training camp. So buckle up. Could be a lengthy ride here as we continue, whatever it is, week 4 now, or 3, I don't know, 3 of Aaron Rodgers' watch continues. It doesn't seem like the Steelers are in any rush here. And, you know, in some ways, the Steelers have no leverage to get Rodgers to make a decision sooner. So there's like, Tomlin said this yesterday, and he's sort of obliquely, but he said, like, you know, deadlines don't create the desired outcome. And I think that's true. I don't think the Steelers have any way to make Aaron Rodgers make a decision any faster that benefits them. On the other hand, they have plenty of leverage here overall. Aaron Rodgers has nowhere else to go where he could be a starting quarterback right now, and no guarantee that he will ever have any other place to go where he could be a starting quarterback. That is all of the leverage. The Steelers have no, you know, they could offer more, but they don't have to. They could try to sweeten the pot in some way or some fashion. They don't have to. And I think this is an important distinction to make because we're talking about a player who has had it all as an NFL player. He's been the starting quarterback. He's played on competitive teams. He's gotten paid a lot of money. He's had large say over the way the offense runs, about the construction of the lineup. He's gotten his buddies' jobs. I don't get the sense that the Steelers want to give Aaron Rodgers all that. It's not just about the money. I think they're offering a 1-year contract. He said he wants to play for 2. But so there's that part of it. But there's just a lot going on in terms of what is and isn't happening that could be happening. And there's no reason for the Steelers to jump and say, what do you need, Aaron? What do you want, Aaron? What do we need to make this happen right now? That's just going to harm them. Giving him the power to dictate the plays called on the offense or the roster is what they don't want to do when they're making a 1-year commitment to a guy. And so they're going to wait. They're going to say, okay, you make your decision, your time frame. We're here. Let us know when you get there. And I think that's the right way to go about it. What it would take to get him to sign up right now, full feet, and say, yes, here we go. Okay, they don't want to do. And putting a deadline on the decision, sure, it might make everybody feel better, but is that going to get him to act? What if you put a deadline on it and it passes? Then what if he calls five days later and says, you know what, I actually want to do it? Are you going to say no then? If you're not going to say no then your deadline's fake anyway. They don't have a better option. They're not going to sign. Mike Tomlin made it fairly clear that they're not going to sign another veteran quarterback. That if it is not Aaron Rodgers, in terms of veteran quarterback, they're going into the season with Mason Rudolph as their starter. And that they will probably draft a quarterback who's asked specifically about the 2025 draft class today, where he said, he doesn't think it's this sort of wasteland that it's been described as. He likes the character of a lot of the guys he's talked to. And he said he's open to the idea of drafting a quarterback in the first round, although, he said, I'm open to everything. So it doesn't necessarily mean anything, but I would expect the Steelers to draft a quarterback at some point. I would be surprised if it's in the first round, just based on the way that I think we all expect the board to fall. But I think the Steelers will draft a quarterback at some point. and they will have Mason Rudolph. And if they can add Aaron Rodgers to that mix, they'll be very happy with that. And if they can't add Aaron Rodgers to that mix, I think they have the second best thing already. And so there's no reason for them to rush. And I think this stance of theirs makes perfect sense. I understand everyone being frustrated with the process, but I can't come up with a plan of action that makes any more sense than what they're doing right now. Another thing that I wrote about at SteelersNow.com today that I think is worth mentioning here is that I think we should acknowledge that no matter what happens, the Steelers are getting at best their plan B. They wanted Justin Fields or Russell Wilson. They said that repeatedly early in the offseason. Now, maybe they were lying about Russell Wilson. It certainly seems like they were because they made no real effort to sign him at all at any point. Certainly, they didn't want Russell Wilson as much as they wanted Aaron Rodgers or as much as they wanted Justin Fields. But they did want Justin Fields, and they tried to sign Justin Fields, and they didn't want to pay for Justin Fields. So it's, they wanted Justin Fields first. This was plan B. But the entire process has been on the Steelers' terms. They wanted Justin Fields at the price that they wanted Justin Fields for. They want Aaron Rodgers in the circumstances that they want Aaron Rodgers. They don't want Aaron Rodgers the general manager. They don't want Aaron Rodgers the offensive coordinator. They want Aaron Rodgers the quarterback, and they want to pay him a certain amount of money, and they only want to do it for 1 year. They're not going to sacrifice on those things that they think are important just to get a player because that player is the one they want. And if they end up with just Mason Rudolph as a result of that, they're okay with that. And I think the big overarching thing that you should take away from the entirety of the Steelers quarterback process to this point is that they do not care that much about the 2025 season. They're not going to say that. They're never going to say that. Their actions are telling us they don't care that much about the 2025 season. It doesn't matter that much who their quarterback is. And until they get to that point, it's going to be difficult. It just doesn't matter. The 2026 draft is where they will find their quarterback. And until they get to that point, it's small-time deals. It's short-term deals. It's small deals that they're making the best out of the situation. But they're not going to overspend. They're not going to overextend themselves just to get a guy for a year that doesn't honestly matter that much. They don't have the horses to compete. They're not admitting it, but their actions say they are. So that's what I got from the quarterback position. I will talk briefly about wide receiver. Mike Tomlin talked extensively about DK Metcalf today, about what led to his acquisition, why it was very smooth for the Steelers because DK very badly wanted to be in Pittsburgh, what it means for him and George Pickens together. I think Tomlin, very explicitly said he thinks that those two can be a big part of the offense together. He doesn't think that that's similar, which I thought was interesting. I'm not sure I necessarily agree, but he said, DK Metcalf is big, George is just tall. They operate different ways, and they do. Certainly, Metcalf is a physical, punishing runner, blocker, a different kind of guy. But I think the way he's been used in Seattle has been the way that Pickens has been used in Pittsburgh, which is basically a go ball / jump ball kind of guy. Not saying Metcalf isn't capable of more than that. Maybe the Steelers will be able to use him in ways that Seattle didn't. But I think, yes, they're different physical specimens, but in terms of their usage, it's been fairly similar. He didn't seem to have a problem with the fact that you got two guys that basically want to run straight down the field. He doesn't seem to think that their personalities will be a problem either. He said, you have two alphas, two guys that both want the ball in big situations. I'm never going to run away from having that problem. Very expected Mike Tomlin answer for that question. And, I think he didn't explicitly say this, but I feel like it's clear in the way he said things that they view DK Metcalf as their number one wide receiver and that they view George Pickens as maybe not necessarily number two, but a 1B. And it'll be very interesting. He said he's talked to George this offseason, but not about the Metcalf acquisition. Thought that was interesting. To me, I think that's a conversation I would have wanted to have beforehand because the way George Pickens reacts to this move and that whether it's official or just simply tacit demotion is going to be an interesting part of this offseason. Is he on board with that role? Is he on board with playing without a contract extension? The answers to those questions that we don't have yet are going to be really crucial to the way the season plays out for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And it's a little surprising to me that At least Mike Tomlin is telling us that he doesn't know the answers to those as we stand here right now. All right, that's all I got for now. I got to get back to writing. SteelersNow.com will be full of news stories from two availabilities from Mike Tomlin yesterday and today. And we're also expected to talk to Steelers General Manager Omar Khan today as well. So stay tuned for that. Make sure you like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications here on the YouTube channel so you don't miss an episode. Steelers Morning Rush, Steelers Afternoon Drive. I'll have video from Tomlin. We dropped a special episode yesterday with some audio from Tomlin. There'll be some stuff from Omar at some point, so don't miss a thing. Hit that subscribe button. It's free. Go over to SteelersNow.com. Check out all the written content there. Until next time, thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and enjoy.